Okay, so hello from Sagara, on behalf of the Sunderland Recovery College. I'm here today with Jon Goode, who's a chaplain in the CNTW Trust. And today we're going to talk a little bit about prayer. And just as a kind of a way of being honest, I want to say that I've been hassling Jon to do this all week. And the reason for that is because I know that I know certain people who've got a lot from prayer, and it's helped their mental health. And I'm really aware of people who have praised Jon for his work and helping them in their recovery. And I know that everything that Jon does isn't prayer, but I thought prayer might be an interesting resource for people who are interested in it. So there's my little preamble. And so welcome, Jon.
Nice to see you, Cigar. It's always good. Yeah.
So I've got a few questions for you. So like the first one is really just, could you just say a little bit about what is prayer? That's possible.
Right. Yes, and I think actually in answering this question, we'll answer all the others. But actually, I think it's a really important question, and it's something I've been giving some thought. Cigar has, yes, just to let a few folk know, Cigar has been hassling me about this, and my diffidence is a bit about that actually the word prayer has connotations for people, and they feel that it's something professionals do, or it's something that religious people do, and I'm far too sensitive about about how important these things are for me, in the sense that I don't want to be seen as being weird for praying or for doing things, being religious, because I think we've been culturally taught to sort of see all that stuff as spirituality and all that thing as being different and other, and actually I feel very strongly in my life that's exactly the opposite. Actually, the things that are really important in my life are things that are at the heart of my being, the heart of what I do, and it's there in everything that I do. I mean, I think Sagara says that I don't actually do much. Let's say do pray and a lot of other things, but I see a lot of the other things that I do as a form of prayer anyway. So it's an all-encompassing thing. I just don't talk about it much because I think it puts people off, to be honest with you. So having Cigar ask me to talk about it today is it's like really put me on the spot. But I think I'd like to start by answering what is prayer by saying something very controversial, and that is that everybody prays. And the prayers are, please, help, and thank you. People, there are times in people's lives, whatever they are and whoever they are, and I'm pretty sure about this, you can be the most ardent atheist, but there are times when you are pushed to the edge of your being. Things that happen spontaneously, that forces you to think about something beyond yourself, your sense of self. Now, I'm not talking about God here, but I'm just talking about the fact that we are pushed to the edge of ourselves, and at those moments we express that in terms of, please, we are, there are points when we are desperate for help, or literally help. There are times when we are just desperate for help, and then there are moments, and I think these are the really interesting moments, when we can't help but say thank you, when we see something beautiful or something happens in our lives that's transformative, and we just say thank you, and we can't do anything else but say thank you. And that for me is what the essence of prayer is about, and that's something we all do. And I think that however we want to understand it, I'm not for one going to be telling people that that's prayer. You should understand those terms, but that's how I think I understand that prayer is fundamentally being, and I think that's something which people do as part of their life. It's part of who we are. It's part of what makes us human. But as a Christian, prayer has become something. Prayer is also something else. So there is this sense of prayer as something which we all do, but then as a Christian, there is another aspect that has impacted on my understanding of what prayer is, because I'm part of a tradition that is fundamentally over 2,000 years old. We draw on the traditions and understanding of what prayer is from the Jewish tradition. I mean, Judaism is at the heart of that, Christianity, and Christ was a Jew. And all we understand about God and about prayer comes from the Jewish tradition. So we're talking about a very ancient tradition which we're drawing upon here, which has been, over 2,000 years of people praying and talking about prayer. And that is a tradition which has shaped Christianity and certainly shaped me. So there's a very particular understanding of prayer that I actually follow. Above and beyond that foundational understanding of prayer. And I think that, to say something briefly about that, because I could be talking about that for, ages, but prayer, within that tradition, prayer involves silence, prayer involves song, prayer involves prayer involves sharing our prayers, sharing our requests together. Prayer involves things praying by ourselves. Prayer is expressed and understood in lots of different ways, but all of it draws on a tradition and understanding of the fact that we are foundationally loved, and that we are living within an existence, a creation that is created by love, and it is love that we are accessing and actually a part of through prayer. And so that foundation, or that discipline of being grounded through prayer in love is at the heart of the Christian tradition. And we understand it in terms of a relationship, that we are in a relationship with God through Jesus, and what Jesus taught us about prayer, and then through the power of the Holy Spirit. That foundationally, even me praying by myself, I am in relationship with the creation, and that relationship is a creative. It's a personal relationship, and that's something which is given to me from my tradition. I'm not going to suggest to anyone that is something that everyone should follow, but that is there at the heart of what I do and how I understand prayer as being, on top of that foundational understanding of prayer in terms of, what was it again? Please, help, and thank you. Yeah. Does that make sense to you, Sagara?
Yeah, it does totally. Yeah, and I suppose I really like the idea that that when you're in kind of suffering, when you're in these awful states, that there's this help available by reaching out. And I have actually got I've got personal experience of that, because when I was in my 20s, I sort of had an existential crisis, and I remember going to Durham Cathedral to look for God, and I didn't find him actually, but I remember one night I just prayed and prayed. I just wanted help. I felt so alone, so isolated, and I prayed and I prayed. And I remember I woke up in the morning and I just felt this kind of sublime sense of peace. And so, so I do have experience of how valuable that connection can be, however you want to interpret it. So yeah, it does make sense, and I think it is ultimately about love and connection, like you say. It's lovely. So in a way, you have answered my other questions. About can it help with someone with mental health, who's suffering with mental health difficulties, and I think you've said that by, you can just reach out. What do you say? And
I think that's really important. I mean, I hope I don't want to sort of go and do it, because I'm very conscious as a mental health chaplain that people are grappling with understandings. People have got a God in their head sometimes, and that God is a God that's angry and judgmental and disappointed, and and that makes people ill, under the burden of this praying to this God, beseeching this God to help them, and this God is telling them that they are unworthy of to be who they are, and that is. So I'm very conscious sometimes that prayer, and also there's an issue about voices, people hearing voices, and the way in which that can be confused with with prayer. And I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to kind of I can't unpack that too much, but I do feel that when I hear that, when I engage with people who are in that situation, what I try and do is I literally don't judge. I mean, because I think it's important that people are able to express that understanding of God, and express that understanding of who they are, or allow those voices to be expressed. But at the end of that is this sense of actually the generosity that exists at the heart of life, that I feel I'm there to help express and so that people can understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, walking into Durham Cathedral is beautiful. It is a beautiful place, but walking in there and asking God to be there is sometimes quite difficult, because I don't find God in those places often. Actually, to be honest with you, don't often find God in church. I think something like Durham Cathedrals. I mean, what you get is a sense of awe, and that's and power. Yeah. I mean, it was built by bloody Normans. I mean, what do you expect? But I mean, it is. But I mean, I would say that it's. I mean, I think, and I think what you do get a sense of is that people have prayed and used this place for centuries, and it's become kind of like it's seeped into the whole fabric of the place. And also, I find it interesting that, I mean, I also think that at the heart of this, it's a very strange place in a way, because there's all this grandeur, but the two people who are most celebrated in that place, which is St Cuthbert and Bede, were very, very, I mean, Bede and Cuthbert spent his time on an island off in the middle of nowhere, and Bede was just this monk working, beavering away in a study. He wasn't. These weren't grand people, and yet this place has been built up around them. And so, in a sense, I want to go back to this idea about relationship, and that actually what's important is that reaching out for a relationship, which is in the end, allows us to be who we are. And I think some of the work I do is and I've done this with psychologists, to be honest with you, is unpacking some of the ways in which people have thought themselves into dead ends. Some of the issues around mental illness, I think sometimes, that people have been taught to see themselves in a certain way, and they need to unpack that a bit, and actually coming at it from an understanding that in the end that actually it's worth it, that they are worth this work, that they deserve to be well, and they deserve to have this work done on them, so they are able to address their thinking, and also that actually if they take that step of change in prayer, actually, I have to say, a key aspect of prayer, I think, is hope. You start praying, you start asking for help, and you start being thankful when you start hoping. And actually taking that step is going to be okay. That if you take that step, there is people there. There is literally going to be a relationship at the heart of it that's going to hold you. Yeah.
That's great. So like if I so say I'm suffering at the moment, and I'm stuck at home on my own, and like I just want to give this a go. Could you just say like a few things, maybe just to kind of finish off, just say like like what would I do? Like what, is it just good?
Right. Gosh, that's a good question, actually. Thank you, Cigar. Oh dear. Right. Gosh. Well, it depends who they are, to be honest. I mean, I think if they want to draw on, let's go with the let's talk about the basics. Let's just take it that there's that idea that we all pray. Which I think is important, because I think what I'd want to go is I'd want people to go with the flow, literally. Go with where they are, where they're fed, what feeds them, what gives them energy, what gives them hope, what gives them what helps get them through the day. That's a question I ask people a lot. When people are ill, I often ask them what helps get you through the day. What is it that actually keeps you going? And there will always be. I mean, people go, oh, it's all hell. It's nothing there. But if you unpack it, there's always something that keeps people going. And I would want to start with that. I'd want to start with that moment where you get peace, in the way that you described it. I'd want to talk about that place that you go to, which actually feeds you and helps you. I mean, I always say that in other cultures, people go up mountains to be near God. I say in this country, we go to the sea. And so going down to Roker Beach or to Siam or wherever, and just standing there and looking at the sea, going down there over a period of 3 or 4 days, and just seeing the way in which the sea is different every time, and allowing that going in and going out to actually become part of your own rhythm. Some people, I think, going running, getting that rhythm which goes where you actually are listening to your heartbeat. The structures that you are suggesting, the structures that you promote for your meditation. Again, that's a really good starting point for people. The 5 ways of well-being, which Jackie was talking to when I was interviewed her recently, Jackie Nixon. These are all things that actually are are about prayer, to be honest with you, I think. And actually, it's about that process of finding what feeds you and allowing yourself to be fed. And I think people kind of know that, but they almost want to beat themselves up. They kind of start telling them they don't deserve this, but actually they really do. And that actually you deserve to access things as much as anyone else. And it's really important you give yourself the opportunity to do these things. And I think that, where you and I can help is that we can help provide that discipline that's required in order to do that. Because where the discipline is important is continuing to pray, continuing to do those things, even when you really are really dry. You can't put one foot in front of the other. To keep doing things and keep hoping, keep moving forward, not even moving forward, but keep being is really important. So I hope doesn't sound too diffuse, but take the things that matter to you and allow them to talk. Allow them to become a part of a consistent part of your life, because that's where you're being fed. I think that's what I would want to start with. Those are people come from a Christian tradition or other. I mean, there are tech or other religious, more organized religious traditions. There's texts that help you start to engage in prayer. The foundational text for Christians is a Jewish prayer. Is a Jewish prayer that Jesus shared with his followers when they asked him what prayer was, and that's the Lord's Prayer. And I would say that they just read the Lord's Prayer through, leaving out the bit at the end, for thine is the power, the power of God. That's just a bit stuck on the end, because I think sometimes that gets in the way, because the actual prayer itself is very short, very snappy, and it covers all the bases. So that I would want to say is where you would want to start if you were coming at it from a Christian tradition. And the great thing about the Lord's Prayer is that actually if you start, it's a very simple prayer, but if you start unpacking it, you're forced to think and to reflect, often in silence, about what it actually means. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And it's really interesting because I thought you were going to talk a lot about, I thought, with prayer, you talk a lot about God. And, but actually you're talking, I mean, you are talking about that, but you're talking about the relationship with yourself and being kind to yourself and seeing the kind of beauty in life and the things that are there in life that we often miss, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, as I say, I come from a very particular tradition, and I don't talk about God much because I mean, because I think it gets in the way. Because I think you have to talk about. I have faith that the world is made of love. Lots of experiences in my life have taught me otherwise, but I have faith. And I live out that faith in a very flawed, bad way, but I do it as much as I can do. And that faith is that we are foundationally loved, that we live in a world of love, and that we are called to celebrate that love in our lives. And that's a faith that comes from my religious faith. And so I don't talk about it because it sounds incredibly, well, I've just said it now, it sounds incredibly trite, so you just have to live it out and try and help people see it in themselves. I'm not asking people to take on board what I'm saying and doing. I think it's enormously important. In a way, it's enormously important. I'm religious, I'm Christian because I want people to be themselves. And if people want to do things a completely different way, well, that's actually really important to me. I mean, one of the most misunderstood sayings is saying from the Gospel of John when Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." I have understood Jesus' way from talking to atheists, agnostics, Muslims, all kinds of different people have helped me understand the nature of Jesus' way. And it's important to say that it's not my way. I'm not, it's not a question of me telling other people what the way is, but there is a way, and part of my work as a chaplain is to help people find their way through their illness, and that for me is at the heart of prayer and what prayer is about. When Jesus talks about the way.
Lovely. What a lovely place to end, I think. No, it's lovely. Very.
Oh yeah. By the way, I forgot the list. I also include Buddhists in that list. I forgot about them. Don't you?
Okay. So we'll put we're going to put this on the Facebook page, and we're going to put it on the website as well. We'll include some resources like the prayer and stuff like that. But,
yeah, I mean, I'm pleased, Sagara. I think what you mentioned just then about that little story you just put in about going to Dunkley and then finding it. I think that's a really important thing to add in, if that's okay, and to find something about including that in some way about, because I think that's the sort of thing people do all the time, and will really challenge people. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So brilliant. So thank you very much for your time. Now I'm sure we'll.
Oh, blimey, I need to go. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sagara.
Take care.
Okay. See you later, mate. Okay.